You have spent your whole life trying to be good, to listen, to care, to carry the pain that others could not. But lately, something feels different, does it not? The warmth that once flowed so easily from you has turned heavy, tired. You find yourself staring at the ceiling at night, wondering why kindness hurts now, why silence feels safer than giving. Carl Jung once warned of this moment, a transformation so deep and unsettling that he refused to speak of it openly. He called it the forbidden crossing, the point where your empathy begins to turn inward, where your light starts to bend into something darker, wiser, more complete. You begin to see people for who they truly are, not the masks, not the words, but the truth beneath them. You can sense manipulation before it reaches your skin. You can feel the hunger in others to take what you no longer wish to give. And yet, there is power in this awareness, a power you never knew was yours. This is not the death of your empathy. It is its evolution. Tonight, you will step with me into the shadow that Jung feared to describe. The moment when an empath goes dark, and discover why that descent is not your end, but the beginning of your becoming. Let your body rest. Let your thoughts drift. Tonight, I will tell you a story Carl Jung once feared to speak aloud. A story about the moment when the light inside a gentle soul begins to flicker. Not because it is dying, but because it is preparing to change its form. There is a silence that arrives before every transformation. It is not peaceful at first. It feels like a weight pressing against your ribs, a cold wind moving through the spaces of your heart. You cannot name it, but you can feel it. Something shifting deep within, a quiet whisper that says, "You cannot keep living this way." Jung called this the threshold of the soul, the moment when the unconscious begins to stir, demanding to be seen. He believed that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. For the empath, this is where the journey begins. You have spent years trying to be the light for everyone else. You carried other people's pain as if it was sacred. You stood beside the broken and believed that love alone could save them. You forgave too soon, apologized too often, and smiled through the ache because that is what kind souls do. They hold the world together quietly, even as they fall apart inside. But somewhere along the way, something began to fracture. The same sensitivity that once connected you to others now begins to hurt. Their sadness lingers in your chest long after they leave. Their fears crawl into your sleep. Their chaos becomes the rhythm of your thoughts. And no matter how hard you try to rest, the exhaustion stays. You start to wonder, is there something wrong with me? Jung would have said, no. He would have told you this is not weakness. It is the psyche's cry for balance. When you have lived too long in the service of others, the soul rebels. It starts to pull back its light, not out of cruelty, but out of survival. Imagine a candle that has burned for too long. Its flame trembles in the air, small but defiant, trying to keep giving light, even as the wax beneath it melts away. That trembling is not failure. It is transformation in disguise. The light flickers because it is learning how to become something else, something that no longer needs to burn itself to shine. There comes a night when kindness begins to ache, when you feel yourself standing at the edge of your own limits. The heart that once opened easily now hesitates. You listen, but you no longer rush to fix. You care, but you no longer sacrifice your peace. You begin to notice the small ways the world has taken from you, not out of malice, but out of habit. And you realize you have taught it how. In Jungian terms, this is when the shadow begins to awaken. The shadow is not evil. It is everything we have repressed in the name of being good. It carries your anger, your boundaries, your power, your right to say no. It is the part of you that has waited patiently for the moment you would stop pretending that endless giving is the same as love. And so, the empath begins to change. It is subtle at first, a hesitation, a silence, a breath held longer than usual. You no longer respond instantly to every call for help. You feel the world differently now, not as something to absorb, but as something to observe. You start to see that compassion without self-awareness is self-destruction. Jung once wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." He understood that awakening always begins as discomfort. The mind resists, the ego trembles, the heart aches. Yet through that ache, something extraordinary begins to form. The person you thought you were starts to dissolve, and beneath the melting layers of identity, a new self begins to take shape. You may feel lost, even frightened. That is natural. The empath's path toward transformation is not gentle. It is sacred chaos. It is the soul turning inward, reclaiming the pieces it once gave away too freely. It is the moment when you stop begging for peace and start creating it within yourself. Outside your window, the world continues as always. The same noise, the same stories, the same endless hunger for attention. But tonight, you are no longer part of that noise. You are standing at the edge of something ancient. The air feels different here, colder, clearer. You can almost hear the soft echo of Jung's words drifting through the dark. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And maybe that is what this moment truly is. Not a collapse, but an acceptance. Not a fall into darkness, but a descent into truth. The empath's forbidden moment is the soul's quiet rebellion, the point where compassion meets self-respect and kindness finally remembers its own worth. So breathe. Let the ache unfold. Let the light inside your chest tremble if it must. The flicker you feel is not the end of your empathy. It is the sign that your soul has decided to awaken. Soon you will understand why Jung feared to describe this transformation in full. Because once it begins, there is no going back. The world you knew will fade, and in its place, a deeper vision will open, one that sees both the beauty and the cruelty of human nature, and loves them both with equal clarity. This is the beginning of that journey, the forbidden moment when the empath's light begins to change. And as you listen, perhaps you can feel it too. The soft, trembling glow within you, flickering not to die, but to be reborn. And so, the story continues. The night deepens and you are still awake, caught between who you have been and who you are becoming. The air feels heavier now, quieter. You can almost hear your own heartbeat, slow and uncertain, echoing through the stillness. This is where the transformation begins to tremble, the space between light and shadow, where kindness begins to ache. There comes a night, Jung once suggested, when the very qualities that made you gentle start to feel like a burden. When your empathy, once a source of connection, becomes the reason you feel alone. You have given so much of yourself for so long that you no longer know where others end and you begin. you sense that something is shifting inside, not out of anger, but out of quiet exhaustion. You start to question everything: your worth, your purpose, even your goodness. You lie awake wondering, why does it hurt to care? But this ache, Jung would say, is sacred. It is the moment when your soul begins to demand balance, the point at which endless giving without return collapses under its own weight. Jung called it the dark night of the soul. It is not depression, though it feels like it. It is not punishment, though it hurts deeply. It is the psyche's way of forcing a rebirth. In his words, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. Every light must flicker before it steadies, and every soul must dissolve before it learns to see. You begin to notice small signs that you are nearing your breaking point. The smile you used to wear now feels heavy on your face. The words, "I'm fine," start to taste bitter. You find yourself avoiding people, not because you stopped loving them, but because you can no longer carry their storms. There is a strange relief in the silence, a peace that feels guilty at first, but also necessary. Do not fight it. This night is sacred. It has arrived to cleanse you of the weight you were never meant to bear. Jung believed that every person reaches this inner crossroads, a moment when the persona, the mask we show to the world, can no longer hide the truth of our fatigue. Beneath that mask lies a raw, trembling self that is finally ready to be honest. You are not weak for feeling this way. You are human. You are tired of being the sun in everyone else's sky while standing alone in your own darkness. You are beginning to understand what Jung meant when he said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." There is pain in this awakening, yes, but there is also beauty. Think of the caterpillar. It does not grow wings because it decides to. It dissolves. It turns itself into nothing but soft matter, vulnerable, formless, suspended in stillness. That is the price of transformation. The caterpillar doesn't fight the process, it surrenders to it. In that surrender, the blueprint of flight is quietly written. You too are dissolving. The version of you that survived by pleasing, by fixing, by being endlessly kind is melting away. It is not death, it is metamorphosis. Jung might have called it the death of the false self. The ego, stripped of its illusions, begins to see what lies beyond performance. The raw, sacred essence of being. It is a lonely phase. The world will not understand your silence. It will ask, "What happened to you?" But you do not owe anyone an answer. You are learning that peace often looks like distance and healing often looks like solitude. Breathe. Let yourself fall into the quiet. This is not the end of your empathy. It is its recalibration. The heart that once poured out for everyone else is learning to hold itself for the first time. You may feel guilt for needing space, for saying no, for choosing rest. But rest, Jung would remind you, is not avoidance. It is a conversation with the soul. In his journals, Jung wrote that the unconscious Sasha speaks in symbols, not words. When your mind is tired and your heart feels heavy, your soul is speaking through the language of fatigue. It is saying, "Enough. It is time to return to yourself." So do not resist. Let the stillness wrap around you like a blanket. Feel the ache, but do not fear it. Every tremor of discomfort is an invitation to soften. Every tear is a cleansing tide. And as you sit here, breathing slowly, you may notice something subtle, a flicker inside your chest that refuses to die. It is small but steady. The light you thought was fading is only learning to glow differently. It is here, in this sacred darkness, that the soul rewrites its story. Not with grand gestures or sudden revelations, but with quiet acceptance. The breaking point is not destruction, it is a doorway. The moment your kindness begins to ache is the moment your heart begins to awaken to its own boundaries. You are not losing your light. You are learning to let it rest. You are not falling apart. You are softening into truth. And as the night stretches on, you realize that nothing has been taken from you, only returned. The strength you have been searching for was never in endless giving. It was in knowing when to stop, when to breathe, when to let the world spin without you for a while. Outside, the stars continue their silent dance. Inside, something quiet stirs, a calm, a small understanding that whispers, the light is not gone. It is simply learning to shine from within. The dark night of the soul is not the death of empathy. It is its evolution. What you feel now is not the absence of light, but its transformation. As the candle trembles, the flame reshapes itself, preparing to burn steadier, wiser, and softer than before. This is the breaking point of light, the moment before the dawn when the old self dissolves and the new one, unseen but certain, begins to breathe. The night has not ended yet. You are still here, breathing quietly in the dark, feeling the echo of something tender and tired inside you. The breaking point has passed, but what remains is heavier than silence. It is not a wound you can see. It is a weight you carry without knowing how it began. You wake up each morning a little more drained, a little less certain of who you are. There is no single reason for the exhaustion. It is a quiet accumulation. One conversation too heavy, one goodbye too long, one more attempt to fix what was never yours to fix. You cannot name it, but you feel it, the sadness that is not entirely your own. Carl Jung once wrote, "The greatest burden a soul must bear is the unlived life within it." For the empath, that burden becomes multiplied. You not only carry your own unlived life, but fragments of everyone else's. You absorb what others cannot hold, and in doing so, you begin to forget the shape of your own light. Every empath knows this invisible ache. You walk through your days, sensing the moods of strangers, feeling the fear before they speak, catching their pain between breaths. When someone cries, it is as if the tears fall inside you. Each time another heart breaks, a drop of water within you changes color. It is not a choice. It is instinct. Your soul has always been porous, open, receptive. You learned early that your presence could calm storms, that your softness could heal others. But what no one told you is that healing comes at a cost. Each moment you absorb someone else's pain, a small piece of you bends to contain it. You adapt, you understand, you hold, until one day you realize that your empathy has turned into an invisible cage. Jung described this as the danger of identification with the collective unconscious. When the boundaries between the self and others dissolve in the archetypes and the collective unconscious, he warned that the empath's gift could become their undoing if they fail to separate what is theirs from what belongs to others. You may notice it in the small things, a sudden sadness that has no source, a heaviness that settles in your chest after talking to someone in pain, an anxiety that enters like smoke after a crowded room. You tell yourself it is empathy, but slowly it becomes fatigue. This is the paradox of compassion. The more open your heart, the more the world pours itself into you. And because you rarely close the door, every emotion, joy, fear, grief, hope, flows through you like an endless current. You are both the ocean and the sponge. You take in everything. You cleanse others. But what happens to the water when it becomes too heavy to carry? Sometimes you wonder if anyone truly sees you. People love the warmth you give, the calm you bring, the understanding you offer. But few stop to ask what it costs you to stay that kind. You smile, and they assume you are fine. They come to you for comfort, and you give it freely. Yet afterward, when the room is quiet and the lights go out, you feel hollowed out, like the echo of everyone else's story is still playing inside your body. Jung believed that the empath's sensitivity is not weakness, but a doorway into the deeper layers of consciousness. However, he also said, no tree can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. To touch divine light, you must first understand human darkness. For the empath, that means realizing that love cannot mean endless absorption. Compassion without boundaries is not healing. It is self-erasure. Take a slow breath. You have been living for so long in the light of others that your own glow feels unfamiliar, but your light is still here. Beneath the layers of borrowed sorrow, beneath the weight of unspoken pain, it has not gone out. It has only grown quiet, waiting for you to return. Imagine your empathy as a mirror. When you hold it up to others, it reflects the truth. But if you never turn it toward yourself, you forget your own reflection. The mirror becomes clouded, not from lack of light, but from too many fingerprints of the world. You have spent years polishing everyone else's reflection while your own has faded into the background. The time has come to remember it. This is not selfishness. It is sacred maintenance. Even Jung reminded his students that the healer must learn to heal themselves first, or they will bleed into every wound they touch. So tonight, let yourself feel the weight you carry. Do not rush to release it. Just acknowledge it. The pain you sense, the heaviness you bear, these are not flaws. They are signs that your heart has been too open for too long. The soul is asking you to pause, to filter, to rest. Outside, the world is still noisy with emotions, each one seeking a home. But you do not need to open your door to all of them. Not every cry belongs to you. Not every sadness requires your touch. You can care without carrying. You can love without losing yourself. As Jung once said, your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Tonight, that is where your vision begins. Not in fixing, not in absorbing, but in remembering. Close your eyes. Picture that light inside you again, small, trembling, patient. It does not ask to be shared right now. It only asks to be seen by you. Every tear you have ever caught, every ache you have absorbed, has not destroyed it. It has only deepened its color, made it wiser, more human. And as you breathe, perhaps you can feel it. The slow release of everything that was never yours. The emotions of others sliding gently away, like waves retreating from the shore. What remains is quiet, still, real. This is the moment of return. When the empath stops reflecting the world and starts rediscovering their own light, you are not losing empathy. You are reclaiming ownership of it. You are not closing your heart. You are learning to breathe within it. The world will still cry and you will still care. But now you will know that compassion does not mean drowning. It means holding the world gently, with open hands, and with enough space left for your own soul to breathe. The silence lingers after release. You have finally let go of some of the pain that was never yours. Yet what remains inside you still hums with the echo of other people's stories. It is strange, is it not? To feel lighter and yet more aware. To realize that even after the tears fade, their weight leaves traces. Subtle, invisible, but real. Carl Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." He meant that beneath the surface of every gentle heart, there lies an unseen structure, a hidden machinery of impressions, emotions, and memories that the mind has quietly collected over years of living, listening, and loving too deeply. For the empath, this machinery runs in silence. Every moment you have comforted someone, your psyche has recorded not just their words, but the vibration of their pain. Every betrayal you forgave has left behind a faint blueprint of human behavior, a note in an invisible archive. Over time, this archive becomes vast. You might not realize it, but within you lies something extraordinary, a kind of library of human suffering. It is not a dark library in the sinister sense. It is sacred, built from compassion, sustained by experience. Each shelf holds lessons the conscious mind cannot fully name. How people hide their loneliness behind laughter. How manipulation wears the face of charm. How cruelty can grow from fear. Jung would have called this the alchemical process of psychic transmutation, the unconscious turning lead into gold. What you have absorbed, your mind refines. There are moments when you can almost feel this hidden intelligence at work. When someone lies, you sense it before the words even end. When someone grieves, you understand the shape of their sorrow without needing to ask why. These are not supernatural gifts. They are the results of years of quiet observation, your soul's way of learning the language of darkness through proximity, not desire. Jung believed that the empath's exposure to suffering allows them to develop what he called shadow wisdom. It is the ability to recognize human cruelty not through judgment, but through deep familiarity. You have seen too much of it, not from outside, but from within, because it has passed through you like current through wire. Imagine your inner world as a great observatory of emotions. Every encounter, every heartbreak, every disappointment has left its data behind. Frequencies of pain, wavelengths of deceit, the entire emotional weather of humanity recorded inside you. Not consciously, not deliberately. It happens naturally, like breathing. You have been studying the human soul your entire life, without ever calling it study. And now, perhaps for the first time, you are becoming aware of the machinery behind it all. You see patterns you never saw before. The way certain words repeat before betrayal. The way certain silences hide truth. The way people seek healing, not to change, but to feel momentarily whole in your presence. You recognize it because your unconscious has been cataloging these moments for years. This realization can feel both chilling and liberating. You may think, have I really absorbed all this? The answer, in Jung's terms, is yes. But do not mistake this knowledge for corruption. It is not pollution of your spirit. It is evidence of your evolution. Jung's insight was clear. The shadow is not a monster to be destroyed, but a teacher to be understood. Every tear you have absorbed has taught you how the world hurts. Every heartbreak you have witnessed has shaped your understanding of why people build walls. Every manipulator you have met has shown you what fear looks like when it disguises itself as control. You did not choose to learn these lessons. They found you. They entered through empathy, through your instinct to care. But now, this library within you has become a source of awareness. You have not just felt the pain of others, you have mapped it. Jung might say, you have been living inside an unconscious apprenticeship, a silent training in the anatomy of human darkness. Through it, you have developed something remarkable: emotional X-ray vision, the ability to sense what others hide, to decode pain before it is spoken, to discern truth within contradiction. But with this clarity comes responsibility. To see the machinery of human emotion is to walk a fine line between compassion and cynicism. You can look at the world and see manipulation everywhere, or you can look deeper and see the fear beneath it. The empath's task is not to judge what they perceive, but to witness it, calmly, consciously, without drowning in it. As you listen to these words, perhaps you recognize this hidden mechanism inside yourself. It hums quietly, like the steady rhythm of a clock in another room. You do not control it, but you can learn from it. You can choose to turn this silent accumulation of darkness into insight, into light that no longer burns, but illuminates. You are not broken for holding this knowledge. You are becoming aware of what Jung called the opposites within the psyche: light and dark, compassion and discernment, innocence and wisdom. They exist together, and wholeness is born when you stop trying to separate them. So take another breath. Feel the weight of all that you have witnessed: the betrayals, the sorrows, the unspoken pain of others. Let it sit for a moment, not as a burden, but as proof of your capacity to hold the human condition with grace. You have seen what few are willing to see. You have listened to what most cannot bear to hear. And yet, here you are, still breathing, still capable of love. This is the paradox of the empath. The more darkness you absorb, the more light you carry. But this light is no longer naive. It is tempered, wise, patient, discerning. It no longer rushes to heal. It understands that healing begins with truth. Perhaps this is what Jung meant when he wrote, "In all chaos there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order." The chaos you have carried was never meaningless. The hidden machinery of your empathy has been assembling wisdom, quietly, faithfully, in the background of your being. And now, as the night deepens and your breath slows, you can feel the machinery still turning, not with noise, but with purpose. What once felt like exhaustion begins to feel like knowing. What once felt like burden begins to feel like clarity. The library of pain within you has become something else, not a record of suffering, but a manual of understanding. And as you drift towards sleep, one truth settles gently over your mind. You were never just absorbing darkness. You were learning how to hold it, and in time, how to transform it into light. You have begun to see what lies beneath: the hidden machinery of empathy, the silent archive of pain that has been building inside you for years. Awareness has opened your eyes, but with it comes a new kind of weight. It is not the heaviness of sadness anymore, but of realization. You are starting to sense that what lives within you is larger, older, and far more complex than you imagined. This is where the gathering begins. All that you have absorbed, forgiven, and buried now starts to move. Slowly at first, like clouds before rain. The energy you once used to comfort others turns inward, and you begin to feel it stirring. It does not arrive as chaos or rage. It arrives as pressure, a dense stillness, the kind that fills the air before a storm breaks. Carl Jung once wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Those words echo quietly inside you now. You understand that enlightenment is not escape. It is confrontation. The light you have been chasing all your life was never meant to blind the darkness. It was meant to illuminate it. The darkness within you is not your enemy. It is a collection of every emotion you were told to silence, every memory you were too kind to hold, every truth you swallowed to keep the peace. It is the voice of the self you abandoned so that others could remain comfortable. You have been its jailer for years, mistaking suppression for strength. But shadows do not die from denial. They gather. They wait. It is easy to think that darkness means evil, but Jung saw it differently. In his view, the shadow holds everything necessary for wholeness: instinct, passion, honesty, vitality. It contains what your conscious mind has rejected in the name of being good. And when you finally stop running from it, it does not destroy you. It restores you. Close your eyes for a moment and picture it. All the emotions you pushed away: anger, grief, jealousy, fear, circling like weather on the horizon of your soul. You can feel them now, gathering strength, forming patterns. Each one whispers, "Remember me." Though every act of forgiveness that felt unfinished, every pain you rationalized, every boundary you never spoke, they are all returning, asking not for judgment, but for recognition. The empath inside you trembles, unsure of what to do with this storm. For so long, you believed that being kind meant being clean, untouched by darkness. But Jung knew that the psyche does not heal through purity. It heals through integration. He wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." And this pain you feel now, this trembling of the inner weather, is the sound of your psyche becoming conscious of itself. You can sense the contrast, light and dark meeting, old and new selves merging. It feels uncomfortable, almost electric. But beneath the unease, there is something holy. It is not destruction, it is digestion. Your mind is metabolizing everything it once refused to feel. What you called weakness was actually preparation. What you called fear was simply awareness growing stronger. The gathering darkness does not ask for resistance. It asks for presence. Let it build. Let it rise. Every storm is a conversation between tension and release. Jung compared this to alchemy, the transformation of base metals into gold. You are in that stage now, the heat of transmutation. The elements of your psyche are mixing, separating, refining. The light and shadow are learning how to coexist. There may be nights when it feels like too much, when your own thoughts seem to echo louder than the world outside. You might catch yourself remembering things you thought were long gone, faces, moments, regrets. Do not run from them. They are fragments of your unconscious, resurfacing to be understood. They are not punishments. They are invitations. Jung described this process as the confrontation with the shadow. He wrote, "To confront a person with their shadow is to show them their own light. What you are feeling now is that confrontation. You are standing in the middle of your own storm. And yet, if you listen closely, you can hear something underneath the thunder. A rhythm, a heartbeat, a strange peace growing stronger with every breath. Everything you have ever buried is coming together, forming the outlines of your wholeness. It is messy, imperfect, beautiful. You are not losing control. You are witnessing your own rebirth. The gathering darkness is not pulling you under. It is pulling you inward. Imagine the sky before the rain, thick with clouds, humming with static. The air feels alive, waiting to release. That is you right now. The tension you feel is not danger. It is anticipation. Something within you is preparing to fall as rain, to wash what was stagnant, to clear what was clouded. Let it happen. Let it rain. Every drop is memory. Every thunderclap is emotion finding its voice. Every flash of lightning is insight breaking through. The empath in you is learning the difference between drowning and cleansing. You are learning to stand beneath the storm, to let it pass through without fear. Soon, you will see that this storm is not an ending. It is a purification. After it passes, the air inside you will feel different, lighter, cleaner, freer. Jung believed that the process of individuation, becoming whole, requires exactly this: a descent into darkness followed by an ascent into clarity. So when the heaviness comes again, do not hide. Sit with it. Watch the patterns. You are not being punished. You are being remade. What feels like chaos now is the psyche organizing itself around truth. The storm that once terrified you is now your teacher. And as the first drops fall, as the memories, the feelings, the truths you buried begin to surface, remember this: the sky is not broken when it rains. It is releasing. You are not broken either. You are simply remembering the parts of yourself you once sent into exile. You are not in darkness. You are in preparation for light. This is the gathering darkness, the holy storm before illumination. It trembles, it cleanses, it awakens. And when it passes, you will not be who you were. You will be someone whole, someone real, someone free. The storm has gathered. You have stood beneath it, trembling but unbroken, letting the rain fall through you instead of running for shelter. And then something unexpected happens. The noise begins to fade. The thunder slows its pulse. What once felt like an assault now feels like release. You look inward and realize that the darkness is no longer chasing you. It is embracing you. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." This is that moment, the quiet merging of everything you've resisted and everything you've loved about yourself. The light and the dark are no longer at war. They have found each other in the middle of your soul, recognizing they were never enemies to begin with. You feel it like warmth spreading through the chest. Not a spark, not a blaze, but a deep, steady glow. The fear that used to rise whenever the shadow appeared begins to soften. You realize the darkness was never here to devour you. It came to return the pieces of yourself you left behind. For years, you thought your empathy existed only in light, compassion, patience, understanding. But now, as your shadow steps forward, you see another layer. The kind of empathy born from clarity, not from sacrifice. Jung would have called this integration, the moment when the psyche reconciles its opposites and becomes whole. It does not happen suddenly. It unfolds like dawn. The first light after the storm doesn't shout. It whispers. It reveals the edges of what was hidden without judgment. You begin to see the truth of yourself, all of yourself, the parts that are hurt, the parts that healed, the parts that loved too deeply, and the parts that learned to defend. And for the first time, you feel peace in the middle of contradiction. This is the birth of what Jung might call shadow empathy. It is not kindness for the sake of approval. It is compassion with boundaries. It is love without martyrdom. You can feel another person's pain and still know it is not your duty to absorb it. You can see deception and not collapse into cynicism. You can recognize darkness in others without fearing it in yourself. Take a breath. You are not becoming someone else. You are finally becoming complete. There's a stillness that follows this fusion, a silence so profound it almost hums. Inside it, your awareness expands. You see the pattern of human behavior with new eyes. You can sense when someone hides behind charm, when fear disguises itself as anger, when the need for control comes from a deeper wound, and yet you no longer feel the urge to fix it all. You simply understand. This is not destruction, it's completion. All that pain you carried has become wisdom. All that exhaustion has turned into discernment. You are no longer just a receiver of emotion. You are a mirror that reflects truth. Jung wrote, "There is no light without shadow, and no psychic wholeness without imperfection." You finally understand what he meant. You do not have to chase purity or perfection. You only have to embrace contradiction. The shadow was never meant to be erased, only integrated, balanced, and understood. You may find yourself weeping without knowing why, not from sorrow, but from relief. For the first time, you can look at your life and see beauty even in its darker chapters. The heartbreaks, the betrayals, the nights of doubt, they were not wasted. They were the forge. Every crack in your heart became an opening for light and shadow to meet. You feel grounded now, not fragile. The empath who once dissolved into everyone's emotions now stands firm, calm, and clear. You have learned that empathy without boundaries is surrender, but empathy with awareness is strength. You can love without losing yourself. You can say no without guilt. You can hold someone's pain without drowning in it. As you breathe deeper, something glimmers within, a subtle image perhaps, or a metaphor that your soul sends as understanding settles in. A blade made of light and shadow resting in your hand. It feels paradoxical, gentle yet sharp, bright yet dark. But you know this symbol. It is not a weapon. It is a tool. It represents discernment, the ability to cut through illusion while remaining rooted in compassion. It is the balance Jung spoke of when he said, "Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries." You are no longer afraid of what you can see in people or in yourself. You understand the patterns of cruelty and manipulation, not as threats, but as symptoms of unhealed fear. You no longer respond with panic, but with quiet power. This is the gift of shadow empathy, the capacity to understand darkness without absorbing it, to stand in truth without losing tenderness. It feels sacred, the calm after revelation. The air is clearer, your mind slower, your heartbeat steady. You realize that the darkness within you never wanted to win. It only wanted to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be part of your light. And now, as the two merge, you feel something resembling serenity, the kind that cannot be broken because it no longer depends on avoiding pain. So sit with this feeling for a while. Let it wash through you. You have crossed the threshold Jung feared yet admired, the point where human consciousness evolves beyond polarity. You are no longer chasing light or hiding from shadow. You are learning to be both. Outside, the world still moves with its usual noise and chaos. But within you, there is only balance, the soft hum of unity. You are holding your own duality with grace, knowing that power and peace can exist in the same breath. When you open your eyes again, the world will look the same, but you will not. You will speak with more calm, love with more clarity, walk with more purpose. Because now you understand. The light within you is stronger when it knows the dark that shaped it. The storm has ended, and the air carries a quiet promise. You lift your hand, feeling the weightless balance of the invisible blade. Half shadow, half light. And you know that from this night on, you will no longer fear the darkness. You will walk with it, not as its victim, but as its keeper. The fusion has settled. The storm has passed. What remains inside you now is not turmoil, but clarity, a silence that feels alive. You have faced the darkness, and instead of fighting it, you learn to hold it. That choice changed everything. You no longer feel fragile. The fear that once haunted your kindness has dissolved, and in its place stands something steady, something that understands that love without strength is not wholeness. Jung once wrote, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." And now you see what he meant. To touch the light fully, you had to claim your roots, even the ones buried in shadow. This is the beginning of a new stage, not of innocence, but of wisdom. You are the same empath who once felt everything too deeply, who once gave until it hurt. But now something within you has awakened. The same heart that once absorbed the world's pain has learned to filter it. You understand now that compassion without discernment leads to self-erasure. You can heal with one hand and protect with the other. The energy around you has changed. Where there used to be constant exhaustion, there is quiet control. The empathy that once made you vulnerable now makes you powerful because it has learned form. Like water finding the shape of its vessel, your kindness now flows where it is meant to, not where it is demanded. There is a word Jung often used, individuation, the process of becoming whole, of uniting the conscious and unconscious, of living from your true center. That is what this feels like. You are no longer acting out of reflexive goodness. You are responding from awareness. Every act of kindness now carries intention. Every boundary now carries love. You are being reborn, not as a savior, but as a guardian. The empath in you still loves deeply, still understands the ache of others, still sees beauty in the broken. But this time, you no longer sacrifice yourself for that beauty. You no longer pour endlessly into people who bring only emptiness in return. You are learning what Jung meant when he said, "What you resist persists. What you accept transforms." You have accepted your own power. It hums quietly beneath your gentleness. It does not roar. It radiates. You can feel it, the new balance of your being. Once, your heart was a candle flickering in the wind, fragile, exposed, determined to light the darkness for everyone else. But now, you are a torch. You know where to burn and where to rest. Your flame no longer fears the night. It chooses it. This is the birth of the warrior, not the fighter who destroys, but the soul who protects. The warrior empath does not build walls. They build gates. They decide who and what enters their sacred space. They understand that love without self-respect is not love at all, but surrender. There is a different rhythm to your breath now. Each inhale feels like strength. Each exhale feels like calm. The same sensitivity that once overwhelmed you now acts as guidance. You can read the emotional currents around you like tides. You know when to wade in, when to step back, when to let others face their own storms. Jung believed that every transformation requires tension between opposites. There can be no consciousness without pain, he said, and now you understand why. Pain taught you where your boundaries begin. Darkness taught you where your light belongs. Through the tension, you discovered harmony. You move differently now, slower, more deliberate, like someone who knows the value of their own energy. You no longer explain your worth to those who cannot see it. You no longer chase understanding from those unwilling to understand themselves. You have grown past the need to be seen as good. You are content being real. There is a sacred dignity in this phase of awakening, a still strength that others can feel even if they cannot name it. Some will sense it and be inspired. Others will sense it and retreat, unsettled by your calm. But that too is balance. The light that knows its own power no longer apologizes for shining. You are beginning to live in what Jung called the symbolic life. It is the state of awareness in which every moment, even the mundane, feels connected to a deeper truth. You begin to see that every challenge, every wound was part of a pattern designed to bring you here, to the realization that your empathy was never weakness. It was training. The warrior in you does not seek revenge for the past. It honors it. It knows that those who hurt you were teachers, uninvited perhaps, but necessary. They showed you the limits of blind compassion. They shaped your discernment. They forced you to see that love must evolve, or it collapses under its own weight. Now, your empathy carries both tenderness and precision. You can walk into someone's pain and know how to help without losing yourself in it. You can say, "I understand," without adding, "I'll fix it." That distinction is freedom. The people who once drained you will begin to fall away, not because you hate them, but because your energy no longer feeds their patterns. Your presence has changed its frequency. You attract those who meet you in mutual respect, mutual growth, mutual truth. And through it all, you remain gentle. Because true strength, Jung said, comes not from the absence of vulnerability, but from the courage to live with it. You are still open-hearted, still sensitive, still deeply human. But now, your sensitivity is your sword, not one that cuts, but one that clarifies. You have become what the world desperately needs, but rarely understands. A soul that loves fiercely and protects wisely. A torch that knows where to burn and where to rest. So as you close your eyes tonight, feel that fire within you. It does not demand attention. It does not consume. It simply glows, steady, clear, and calm. You are no longer trying to save the world. You are learning to stand within it, whole and awake. And as you breathe, softly and deeply, let this truth settle into you. You are not the candle anymore. You are the torch, the one that chooses where to shine and where to rest in sacred darkness. The fire within you no longer burns wildly. It breathes. After the rebirth of the warrior comes stillness. the kind that follows understanding. You have learned to protect your light, to hold compassion and boundary in the same hand. Now, something deeper begins to emerge, a quiet intelligence of the soul. Carl Jung once suggested that when an empath integrates the shadow, they become what he called a psychological immune system. The phrase feels strange at first, clinical, almost scientific, but the meaning is profoundly human. Just as the body learns to recognize and neutralize what threatens its health, the awakened psyche learns to identify and disarm what threatens its peace. This is not about armor. It is about awareness. You can now sense manipulation before it reaches you, not as paranoia, but as intuition sharpened by experience. You can see the subtle ways people project their pain, how they disguise control as care or flattery as attachment. You understand it because you have lived it. You recognize the pattern before the pattern recognizes itself. But here lies the difference. You no longer absorb it. You no longer internalize what doesn't belong to you. Once, every emotional current around you would pull you under. Every disappointment, every tone, every unspoken tension. You mistook empathy for obligation. You thought feeling deeply meant carrying it all. But now, your energy behaves differently. It filters. It discerns. It lets in what nourishes and releases what poisons. This is the immune system of the soul. Silent, unseen, but profoundly efficient. You begin to notice something subtle. The more you stay rooted in your calm, the more chaos reveals itself for what it is. People who thrive on emotional control find no grip in your stillness. Their attempts to provoke confusion fall flat because your nervous system no longer reacts. You have learned the art of neutral presence, what Jung might describe as holding the tension of opposites. There's power in this quiet. It is not the kind of power that demands to be seen. It is the kind that makes others reveal themselves without you having to do anything at all. You do not fight, you illuminate, and illumination changes everything. When you reflect darkness back to its source without fear, it cannot grow. When you respond to manipulation with calm clarity, the illusion breaks. When you meet cruelty with insight instead of anger, the mask slips. Jung believed that awareness is the most transformative force in the psyche, that what is unconscious must be made conscious. You have become that awareness, not only for yourself, but for others. Sometimes people will project their own shadows onto you. They will accuse you of being cold when you're merely clear, selfish when you're simply boundaried. Let them. You have learned that their perception is not your truth. Your soul no longer seeks validation from misunderstanding. The immune system does not ask the virus for approval. It simply neutralizes it. This phase of your evolution carries a new serenity. You feel less reactive, more observant. You can enter conflict without losing peace. Listen to criticism without internalizing it. Stand in truth without raising your voice. The warrior has become a guardian, not of others, but of equilibrium. The empath who once dissolved into the emotions of others now stands as a mirror. You reflect truth, not through confrontation, but through presence. There's something almost radiant about this stage. People can feel it. Those who are genuine will find comfort in your calm. Those who manipulate will find their own discomfort magnified in it. It's not vengeance, it's resonance. Jung wrote, The best political, social, and spiritual work we can do is to withdraw the projection of our own shadow onto others. You now live by that truth. You no longer project your pain outward. You integrate it inward. And because of that, you unconsciously teach others to do the same. Your clarity becomes contagious. Your boundaries become invitations for authenticity. There's a quiet satisfaction in this realization, not pride, but peace. You no longer chase closure or justice. You understand that the universe has its own balance, and awareness is often the only justice required. You have no interest in revenge. You have grown past it. The very people who once drained you now fade naturally from your orbit. There's nothing to destroy, only to outgrow. Your empathy has evolved into discernment. Your softness has evolved into strength. You see now that they were never opposites. They were always two halves of the same design. And as this understanding deepens, your inner world becomes quieter. The noise that once filled your mind, the constant worry about what others think, the guilt for saying no, the urge to fix what was never yours to fix, dissolves. What remains is awareness, a clear, steady light that observes without judgment. Imagine it, your soul as an immune system, constantly balancing input and output, learning which energies to welcome and which to release. You do not have to think about it. It happens naturally now. The years of chaos trained it. The years of giving too much built it. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every disappointment was a lesson in discernment. And now that wisdom protects you, not by closing you off, but by keeping you open, safely. You can walk through the world without fear of losing yourself. You can witness darkness without becoming it. You can hold space for pain without being consumed. That is the strength Jung saw in the integrated soul, a quiet authority that does not seek to control but to clarify. You are becoming that authority. You are not reactive. You are responsive. You do not punish. You understand. You do not shrink from the shadow. You see through it. This is what it means to heal beyond the personal, to become part of the psychological immune system of humanity itself. Your presence restores balance, not through effort, but through being. You no longer spread light by burning yourself out. You spread it by staying lit. And in this state of calm power, you realize something profound. You were never meant to fight the darkness. You were meant to understand it so deeply that it cannot fool you anymore. So let your awareness rest, soft and awake. Feel the air move in and out, steady, patient, free. The world still holds its noise, its shadows, its illusions. But within you, there is only stillness. And in that stillness, Jung's words echo gently, a reminder and a truth. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. You have made it conscious, and now the darkness no longer needs to be feared. It has become part of your light. You have reached a point of balance, light and shadow fused, empathy and strength entwined. You have become, as Jung might say, an individual who has become whole. But wholeness does not exist in isolation. Once you stand in your power, the world begins to react. Carl Jung once warned that the most dangerous psychological truth is the one that challenges the collective illusion. He understood something that few dared to admit. Society depends on empaths, on the gentle, the understanding, the endlessly giving, to absorb the emotional waste of the world. They are the silent stabilizers, the ones who carry the unspoken pain that keeps the system running. But what happens when those empaths stop absorbing? What happens when the quiet souls who carried everyone else's darkness decide to stop? Jung feared that moment. He called it the collapse of projection. When individuals cease to serve as containers for the unconscious material of the collective. The empath, by nature, has always been society's sponge. Every unhealed wound, every repressed fear, every collective guilt quietly seeps into their hearts. It is how the world maintains its emotional balance, by allowing a few to carry the weight of the many. And yet, as you grow, as your awareness sharpens, that silent contract begins to break. You feel it, do you not? That subtle tension between your newfound clarity and a world still built on confusion. You can sense it in conversations, in relationships, in the air itself. The discomfort of those who once leaned on your endless compassion. Jung saw this coming. He wrote, "The greatest threat to the collective order is the individual who no longer submits to it." When the empath awakens, when they stop offering free emotional labor to the world, the structures built on their compliance begin to tremble. The balance shifts. A world built on borrowed kindness begins to shake. It is not rebellion, it is revelation. The empath who once absorbed everyone's pain now reflects it back, not with cruelty, but with honesty. The mirror is no longer fogged by guilt or obligation. It shows things as they are. The manipulations, the projections, the cultural patterns of emotional exploitation that society has normalized for centuries. You see this now with calm eyes. You are not angry. You are awake. But awakening for the empath can feel like standing on ground that no longer holds still. People who once praised your kindness now call you distant. Institutions that once benefited from your self-sacrifice now label you defiant. You are no longer the healer they can control. You have become the conscience they cannot silence. The ground trembles under your feet, not because you are unstable, but because the world is not used to your balance. Jung understood this paradox. The individual must shoulder the burden of consciousness which the collective avoids. The awakened empath becomes that burden bearer, but this time not through submission, through awareness. You have become uncontrollable, not because you seek chaos, but because you no longer feed the illusion. You no longer play the role of the perpetual giver who absorbs everyone's pain just to keep the peace. You no longer validate dysfunction with silence. You no longer apologize for saying no. And in that refusal, something extraordinary happens. The emotional economy of the world begins to shift. Imagine a planet where every empath decides to stop absorbing the collective darkness, where they stop saying it's fine when it isn't, where they stop forgiving without accountability, where they stop translating pain for those who refuse to listen. The surface of the earth would tremble under that awakening, not in destruction, but in recalibration. The ground shakes beneath the feet of those who once bowed. That's how it feels. The tremor of self-respect returning to those who once knelt under the weight of others' expectations. And yet, even in this upheaval, there is peace in your power. You are not raging. You are reclaiming. You are not tearing the world apart. You are restoring its balance. Every system that depended on your silence now faces its own reflection. Every manipulator, every narcissist, every institution built on emotional labor begins to see that the supply has ended. This does not make you cruel. It makes you conscious. Jung believed that true transformation begins when the individual withdraws their projection from the collective, when they stop living as extensions of others' expectations. You are doing that now. You are stepping out of the myth of endless giving and into the reality of self-sovereignty. It may unsettle others, but it will free you. Because the truth is, the world has always feared the empath who stops serving and starts seeing. You have become that person. You have become what Jung called the dangerous man or woman who is no longer caught in the collective hypnosis. This awakening is not about power over others. It is about power within the self. The uncontrollable empath does not seek to dominate. They seek to exist authentically, to love with intention, to give with choice, to serve without erasing themselves. You no longer absorb the world's pain. You witness it. You no longer drown in emotions. You translate them. You no longer carry guilt for being whole. And that, in the language of the collective, is revolution. But you remain calm, because this revolution is not one of fire and fury. It is one of stillness. The same stillness that once made you invisible now makes you untouchable. As you stand in this quiet strength, you may feel something deep within the earth, a hum, a vibration. It is not fear, it is resonance. It is the planet adjusting to your clarity. The ground trembles beneath your steps because you are walking differently now, upright, awake, aware. You are not here to save the world anymore. You are here to make it conscious. And as you walk forward, steady, soft, unshakable, remember Jung's timeless warning. The world will ask you who you are, and if you do not know, the world will tell you. You know now, and because you know, the world can no longer control you. The world trembles, not because you have destroyed it, but because you have stopped serving its illusions. You walk differently now, aware, grounded, free. The empath who once bent to every emotional demand has become sovereign. But with sovereignty comes a question that Jung himself wrestled with, one that lives in the quiet corners of every awakened soul. When you finally hold power, what will you do with it? Carl Jung once wrote, "The greater the light, the greater the shadow." He understood that knowledge, especially psychological knowledge, carries both potential and danger. The moment you can see through people, through their masks and motives, you gain a kind of power that few ever possess. You can sense manipulation before it happens. You can disarm deceit with a single glance. You can break someone's defense with the right words. And that realization can feel intoxicating. You do not mean to harm, but suddenly you understand the full weight of what it means to know. Awareness becomes a blade, beautiful, sharp, precise. And the question that rises from its edge is no longer about survival. It's about ethics. If you could see through every lie, would you still be gentle? The empath who has walked through darkness knows how fragile human beings are, how fear hides behind cruelty, how shame disguises itself as arrogance. You have studied these patterns through your own suffering. You can now sense the weak point in any emotional armor, the wound behind every act of aggression. And if you chose to, you could cut through anyone's defenses effortlessly. But you do not. Because Jung's greatest insight was this: no one is enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And once consciousness arrives, compassion must follow, or it collapses into corruption. You begin to understand that power without love becomes manipulation, but love without power becomes martyrdom. You are standing between those two forces now, the razor's edge between creation and destruction. The question becomes not, can I use my power? But should I? The mind tempts you with clarity, that subtle arrogance that whispers, I see more than they do. But the heart interrupts gently, reminding you, understanding is not ownership. Seeing through someone's shadow does not give you permission to define them. The ethical soul learns restraint, not because it is weak, but because it remembers pain. You recall what it felt like when others misused their insight on you. When someone saw your vulnerability and twisted it into control, you promised yourself you would never become that. And so, you do not fight darkness with dominance. You neutralize it with awareness. This is the highest discipline of the awakened empath, not simply to possess power, but to govern it. Jung called this ethical individuation, the point where self-knowledge meets responsibility. To know yourself fully is to understand the effect your consciousness has on others. When you speak, your words carry weight. When you act, your actions ripple outward. You have become an amplifier of truth, and that is no small burden. And so, you choose gentleness, not because you must, but because you can. To remain kind when you could be cruel, that is mastery. To forgive when you could expose, that is strength. To walk away when you could win, that is wisdom. You no longer correct people to prove your superiority. You reveal truth only when the soul before you is ready to receive it. You no longer intervene to save everyone. You trust that each person's darkness is their teacher, just as yours was. Jung once said, to confront a person with their shadow is to show them their own light. But he also warned that to do so carelessly is to risk psychological harm, to awaken someone before they are ready. The enlightened empath learns to see without forcing sight, to understand without intruding, to love without controlling. That restraint, that humility, is what separates wisdom from manipulation. Sometimes you will feel the temptation to speak the truth that could break someone's mask, to expose the shadow you see so clearly. But then you will remember, transformation cannot be forced. It must unfold. Your task is not to destroy illusions, but to illuminate them gently so others may choose to see for themselves. There is serenity in this awareness. You no longer carry the need to prove your perception. You are not here to dominate the unconscious of others. You are here to embody your own. Power, when purified by compassion, becomes light that does not blind. It becomes warmth instead of flame. It becomes presence instead of force. You start to feel it in your own being, the subtle equilibrium of strength and mercy. You can stand firm without aggression, speak truth without superiority, protect without punishing. You no longer need the world to validate your goodness. You simply live it. And so, when someone asks, how do you stay so calm? You might smile softly and say, because I finally understood. Clarity is not meant to wound, it is meant to heal. You do not fight, you illuminate. That sentence, so simple, so quiet, carries the essence of the stage. Illumination is not confrontation, it is revelation through peace. The ethical empath becomes a mirror so clear that others can finally see themselves without distortion. But even mirrors must know when to turn away, because there will be moments when truth feels too heavy for another to bear, and in those moments, silence becomes compassion. Jung called this holding the opposites, the ability to contain contradiction without collapsing into it, to know everything and still choose stillness, to see darkness and still choose to love. The power you hold now does not roar, it hums, it moves like water, patient, observant, unyielding in its gentleness. And as the night deepens, as your breath slows, the question remains, not as a challenge, but as an echo. If you could see through every lie, would you still be gentle? You breathe in, you breathe out. No answer comes, only silence. But perhaps that is the answer, because some truths are not meant to be spoken. They are meant to be lived, quietly, gracefully, like light resting on water. And as the final words dissolve into stillness, the narrator's voice fades, leaving space for thought, for peace, for the quiet hum of self-awareness. The world outside continues, noisy, imperfect, human, but within you, there is only calm power. Not the power to destroy, but the power to understand and to stop there after the question fades. If you could see through every lie, would you still be gentle? A silence lingers. It is not the silence of emptiness, but of arrival. You feel as though you have crossed something invisible, a threshold that cannot be named. The air feels softer. The tension that once held your soul taut begins to dissolve. For the first time in a long while, you are not analyzing, not fixing, not searching. You are simply breathing. Carl Jung once wrote, "Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries." That truth now lives in you. You understand it not as philosophy, but as experience. You have walked through your darkness, held it in your hands, studied its shape, and discovered that it was not an enemy after all. It was the missing half of your peace. You are not losing your empathy. You are gaining protection for it. For years, you equated empathy with exhaustion, the endless pouring of yourself into others until nothing remained. But now you know that empathy was never meant to be self-erasure. True empathy is not absorption, it is awareness. It is seeing clearly without collapsing, loving deeply without dissolving. You are becoming what Jung called an integrated self, a being who no longer swings between extremes of light and dark, love and fear, giving and depletion. Inside you now, the opposites have learned to coexist. Like two rivers meeting in quiet convergence, they no longer fight for direction. They merge, becoming something wider, stronger, calmer. You can feel it, the harmony within the contradiction. The light in you no longer fears the dark. The dark in you no longer resents the light. You are the ocean that contains both storm and calm. Every wave that once terrified you has become part of your rhythm. You realize that peace is not the absence of movement. It is the ability to flow with it. The world would still roar and shift around you, but inside, there is now a quiet certainty, a center that no longer breaks. This is the peace of wholeness, not perfection, not purity, but acceptance. You understand now that there was never anything to fix. You were never broken, only divided. The shadow you feared was simply the part of you that waited to be welcomed home. All the years you spent trying to be good, to be light, to be enough, were leading you to this, the realization that you already were. Jung believed that the goal of life was not happiness, but completeness. The privilege of a lifetime, he said, is to become who you truly are. And becoming who you are means embracing everything: the tenderness and the rage, the patience and the fire, the healer and the wounded. You are not here to eliminate parts of yourself. You are here to integrate them. The peace you feel now is not passive. It hums quietly, like the steady heartbeat of the universe. It is the still point within motion, the clarity within chaos. When you look back at the path you've walked, the breaking, the storms, the shadows, you no longer see tragedy. You see evolution. Every fall was an initiation. Every heartbreak, a teacher. Every night spent doubting yourself was a slow preparation for dawn. And now, as you rest in this awareness, you understand something profound. You did not find peace by running from darkness. You found it by holding it close enough to recognize its face. Your empathy has matured. It no longer tries to save everyone. It simply sees. You can sit beside another's suffering without losing your own center. You can feel the ache of the world without confusing it for your own. And in that, you have discovered the purest form of compassion, one that is steady, sustainable, and free. You no longer need validation for your light, nor shame for your shadow. Both belong to you, both serve you, both are sacred. And so, when you look into the mirror now, you no longer see fragments. You see a continuum, a being made of contradictions held together by grace. You can finally rest in the truth that peace is not a destination. It is a state of being that arises when you stop fighting yourself. This is the gentle irony of all growth. It leads you back to simplicity. After all the striving and searching, you realize that the thing you were chasing was never outside you. It was the quiet acceptance that was always waiting within. Breathe again. Feel the weight lift from your shoulders. There is no more battle to fight. Jung called this point the reconciliation of opposites. The moment the psyche stops fragmenting and begins to act as one unified organism. You feel it now, that soft coherence in your mind, that unshakable calm in your chest. Even your thoughts move slower, as though they too have learned how to rest. You are whole. Not because you became perfect, but because you finally stopped pretending you had to be. There is a subtle joy in this realization, not loud, not dramatic, but deep. You begin to see beauty everywhere, even in imperfection. The cracks in your story no longer embarrass you. They let the light in. The scars you carry are no longer proof of damage, but of transformation. You are no longer trying to become the light. You have become the space that holds it. And when the night returns, as it always will, you will not fear it. You will recognize it as part of you. The dark is no longer a threat. It is the rhythm between breaths, the pause between heartbeats, the balance that keeps your soul alive. So rest now. Let the peace settle deeper. The storms will still come, but they will no longer uproot you. The light will still shine, but it will no longer blind you. You have found the middle, the quiet equilibrium that Jung called the self, where all contradictions find their home. In this stillness, you can finally whisper to yourself, not as hope, but as truth. You are not losing your empathy. You are gaining protection for it. You are not drifting away from your light. You are learning how to carry it through the dark. And somewhere in the silence that follows, the world seems to exhale with you. Because in becoming whole, you have not escaped humanity. You have embodied it. You are the ocean, vast, ancient, endless. You hold the storms, you cradle the calm, and you move in rhythm with the universe itself. And as you rest, the tide inside you finally finds its peace. The waves have quieted now. You can almost hear the echo of your own breath against the night. Steady, soft, complete. The ocean within you no longer fights its tides. It simply moves, expanding and returning, at peace with its own rhythm. You have walked a long way through the corridors of your mind. You have faced fear, exhaustion, revelation, and power. And now, as everything slows, you begin to feel the deepest truth of all. There was never anything outside you to reach for. The destination was always here, in the stillness that follows understanding. Carl Jung once said, "You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become." Tonight, you are choosing to rest, not as surrender, but as realization. This is what it means to be whole. To finally stop searching for light, because you've learned that it was always moving with you, even in the dark. You are no longer running toward becoming. You are being. Let your body loosen. Let your shoulders drop. Let your breath return to its natural pace. There's nothing left to figure out, no more to fix or fight. You have made peace with the contradictions within you, the shadow that taught you strength, the light that reminded you to stay soft. Now, let every thought drift away. Imagine them like leaves floating on water, thoughts, memories, fears, each one carried gently downstream by the current of your breath. You do not have to hold them anymore. They know where to go. The music fades slightly, soft as moonlight. Your awareness begins to dim, like the final ember in a quiet fire. You can feel the warmth, but not the burn. Jung believed that the self is both the center and the circumference of the psyche. You can sense that now. The still point at your center, the infinite horizon that surrounds it. You are both the calm and the movement, both the question and the answer. And as you lie there, eyes half closed, you begin to smile. Not because everything is perfect, but because perfection no longer matters. The storms that once terrified you have become part of your depth. The darkness that once frightened you has become part of your peace. The light in you no longer fears the dark. The two exist together now, quietly, like breath and heartbeat. There is a deep beauty in this harmony, a kind of sacred ordinary. The realization that you do not need to ascend to find meaning. You only need to rest in your own being, to feel your pulse, your inhale, your exhale. Small miracles that remind you, you are still here. The voice in your mind, once filled with questions, softens into whispers of reassurance. You hear Jung's words again, as if carried by the wind. You will never arrive, and that is how you become. It sounds paradoxical, but it feels true. Life is not a finish line, it is a flow. You do not need to arrive to be whole. You only need to be present enough to feel the becoming, moment by moment, breath by breath. Now, you are part of that rhythm. Outside, the night stretches endlessly. Inside, the same vastness opens in you. You can feel the pulse of life moving through everything, through air, through silence, through you. There's nothing to resist anymore. You are safe. You are seen. You are complete. Every lesson you've lived, every shadow you've met, every tear and triumph, they have all led you here, to this quiet truth that hums beneath the noise of the world. You have not lost your empathy. You have not lost your light. You have simply learned to protect them with peace, with boundaries, with rest. And now, as the night deepens, you can let go completely. The voice in the story, the guide who has walked beside you, begins to fade, not in absence, but in reverence. The music softens until it becomes barely audible, like the hush between waves. You are not falling asleep. You are dissolving into stillness. You are becoming the ocean again, infinite, unbroken, serene. Every breath expands you. Every exhale releases the weight of being human. Your consciousness floats gently between waking and dream, where form and meaning blur into something softer, something timeless. And in that liminal space, you feel one last realization rising, not in words, but in presence. There was never a battle between light and shadow. There was only the dance, the eternal motion of the soul learning how to hold both. Now, rest in that knowing. The world outside continues, its noise, its stories, its constant movement, but you no longer need to chase it. You are home in yourself. The guide's voice returns one last time, quieter than before, as if speaking from within you. You will never arrive, and that is how you become. The light in you no longer fears the dark. Rest now, complete. The words dissolve into the air, a final breath, a gentle heartbeat, and then silence. The kind of silence that feels alive, the kind that holds you rather than empties you. Outside your window, the night hums, soft, endless, forgiving. Inside, the same stillness answers, and as everything fades, the voice, the thoughts, even time itself, only peace remains. You drift not away, but inward, into the calm center of all things, where the soul finally whispers its truth. You are whole. You are free. You can rest now. And now, as the story reaches its quiet end, everything returns to stillness. You have walked through the dark and the light, through pain, revelation, and peace. You have faced the shadow and discovered that it was never there to harm you. It was there to complete you. Inside you now, there is a calm rhythm, the pulse of someone who no longer needs to chase meaning because they have become it. The light in you no longer fears the dark. The dark no longer hides from the light. They rest together now, softly, like waves, folding into one another beneath the moon. Jung once said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." And tonight, you choose rest. You choose quiet becoming, not through effort, but through acceptance. Let go of the day. Let your breath slow. Let the world outside fade into gentle distance. You are safe here. You are whole here. You are part of something vast and endlessly kind. Every thought can drift away now, like clouds passing through an open sky. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to understand. Only this moment, soft, quiet, infinite. The story ends, but your becoming continues, peacefully, silently, like the tide. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and let the night carry you home. Good night.